Welcome to this Harness Blue-Green deployment demo for Google Cloud Managed Instance Groups. In this video, I'll walk you through how to configure and execute a MIG Blue-Green deployment pipeline using Harness. We'll cover the initial setup, run through a first deployment where Harness automatically creates the required resources, and then demonstrate a subsequent deployment to show how traffic shifting works between stable and stage environments. Let's get started. Before we dive into the demo, let's quickly understand what we're working with. A Managed Instance Group, or MIG, is Google Cloud's way of managing identical VM instances as a single entity. If you're familiar with AWS, think of it like auto-scaling groups. MIGs provide high availability by distributing instances across multiple zones. They support auto-scaling based on CPU, memory, or custom metrics. They automatically replace unhealthy instances through auto-healing, and they enable rolling updates for gradual deployments. Now let's look at how Blue-Green deployment enhances this. Blue-Green deployment is a release strategy that eliminates downtime by maintaining two identical production environments. We call them blue and green, or in Harness terminology, stable and stage. The blue environment, labeled as stable, serves your current production traffic. The green environment, labeled as stage, is where the new version gets deployed. During deployment, traffic is gradually shifted from blue to green. This lets you validate the new version with real traffic before fully committing. If any issues are detected, you can instantly roll back by shifting traffic back to the stable environment. To set up MIG Blue-Green deployment in Harness, you need three prerequisites in your Google Cloud project. First, one managed instance group that's already running. Second, one backend service that's connected to this MIG. And third, a gRPC route that's configured with the backend service. Harness will automatically create the second MIG and backend service. All right, let's jump right into setting up the pipeline. I already have a blue-green deployment configured here, but let me walk you through everything I've set up so you have complete clarity. Service configuration. First, we need a service. The service contains the following configurations: instance template, MIG configuration, MIG autoscaler configuration. Optional, health check configuration. Optional, you also need to specify the artifact you're deploying, and it must have a valid GCP connector. For this example, I've also configured the backend service name, the MIG pool name, and the GCP gRPC route within the service. For the first deployment, you need at least one MIG running, one backend service is configured. One gRPC route is configured with the backend service. Environment and infrastructure. For the environment, you can use a simple dev or production environment. In the infrastructure definition, you need to connect your GCP connector to your project and region. For the execution strategy, I've selected Blue-Green deployment. When you select this strategy, Harness automatically configures 4 steps for you. Download manifest step. This step downloads all the configurations provided in the service and prepares them for deployment. Blue-Green deploy step. Here, we provide the backend service name and the MIG name. I'm fetching these from the service using expressions, which makes it easier to reuse them across all other steps. Since this is the first deployment, I'm leaving the backend service and MIG name for the second environment empty. Harness will automatically create the second MIG and backend service for us. I've also provided the gRPC route that we configured earlier. This is a prerequisite, and this gRPC route should already be configured with the backend service we specified. Each step also requires the Harness image plugin, which is publicly available in the Harness Docker Hub repository. MIG steady state step. This step checks if the newly created MIG is healthy and stable. Since the second MIG will be auto-created during the first deployment, we use an expression to retrieve the MIG name from the deploy step output. Traffic shifting steps. By default, Harness configures one traffic shifting step. For this example, I've configured 2. First shift 50% to stable, 50% to stager, second shift 0% to stable, 100% to stage. Since the gRPC route already has the backend service configured, it knows which backend services are stable and stage based on the labels. Harness adds. Let me save this and run the pipeline to show you how the deployment works. First deployment walkthrough. Download manifest step. Here, we're downloading all the manifests provided in the service configuration: the MIG instance template, MIG configuration, autoscaler JSON, and the health check configuration. Blue-Green deploy step. In this step, We initially provide one backend service and one MIG name. This step will clone both the backend service and the MIG to create a secondary target group for traffic shifting. It creates a new MIG with the name demo MIG pull 1 and clones the backend service with -1 inch appended to the name. By default, Harness adds -1 inch to the names you provided. As you can see, it says handling backend service operation for first deployment. Since this is our first deployment with only one set of MIG and backend service, Harness is creating the second set we need. It also adds a label to the newly created MIG pool. Let's fast forward to completion. The new MIG pool is successfully created, and the backend service is also created. This state is captured for rollback. If any step fails later, rollback will restore the deployment to this initial state. We can verify in the Google Cloud Console that the pool has a tag called Harness Blue-Green Version Stage applied to this instance group, MIG, Steady State Step. At the end of the deploy step, we get the MIG name and instance template as outputs. The steady state check uses these expressions to verify the newly created MIG is healthy. First, traffic shift. We're shifting traffic to our initial backend service and the new backend service with 50 and 50% weightage. The 50% shift is now complete. Second traffic shift. We've shifted traffic completely, 100% to the new backend service and 0% to the initial one. After this step, the labels are swapped. The backend service with 100% traffic is labeled stable, and the one with 0% traffic is labeled stage. If I refresh the console, you can see demo MIG pool 1 connected to demo backend service 1 is now labeled as stable. The other MIG pool is labeled stage. Second, deployment walkthrough. Now let's run the pipeline again to see how the second deployment works. This time, we already have 2 MIG pools and 2 backend services in place. Download manifest step. Again, downloads all manifests from the service configuration. Blue-green deploy step. This time, the step won't create any new resources. As you can see, it has identified this is not the first deployment, so it simply completes without creating anything. It only saves the current state for rollback. It checks for the stable and stage labels to identify which environment is which. The stage environment is demo MIG pool, and the stable environment is demo MIG pool 1, because in the previous deployment, we shifted 100% traffic to pool 1. MIG steady state step. We poll only the stage environment, which is demo MIG pool. First traffic shift. We've configured 50% stable and 50% stage. Second traffic shift. Stage receives 100% traffic and stable receives 0%. Once this completes, the labels swap again. Demo backend service now has 100% traffic and is labeled as stable. Demo backend service 1 has 0% traffic and is labeled as stage. The labels are updated and swapped completely. That's how MIG blue-green deployment works with Harness. Thank you for watching. For more details and step-by-step guides, please check out the Harness documentation.